My female parents are in a tight financial situation. Only my father receives a pension and they cannot work anymore, so I gave them my credit card, which has a high limit for them to buy what they want without having to keep asking. For example, they always spend between $1,200 and $1,500. An important context: my younger brother and I do not have a good relationship due to irreconcilable differences. We haven't spoken in almost 10 years. My parents gave up trying to get us closer. This month, the spending on the card came in the value of $3,000. So I called my mother to find out what happened because she never in a year has such a large expense come through, and she started to dodge until she said my brother and his 2 children came to live with them. Apparently, in the divorce process, the ex got the house and he got the company. They had 50-50 custody of the children, but she ended up giving in and he got full custody. Unfortunately, due to his mismanagement, my ex-sister-in-law carried that company on her back. The company is not doing well, and he couldn't pay rent, bills and food alone. Pension is still being resolved, but it takes time. So he asked my parents for help. I asked if he helped around the house, and she said she felt sorry for him because he was really tight, so he only helped with the bills and not food. I was annoyed because I don't care about helping my parents, but I don't want to support food for more than 1 adult and 2 children. I've never seen them in my life, so I don't have affection. Sorry. I gave an ultimatum saying either he starts to help with that too, or I cancel the card and start sending restricted money to their account. They would have to be responsible for managing that money until next month. And I was angry because even though I didn't care about their spending on the card, they didn't ask if it was okay to spend twice as much because there were 3 more people in the house. My mother started saying that they didn't ask me because they knew I would deny it, that it was inhumane to treat someone who is going through hardship like that. They said I know my parents can't afford to stand on their own, and they would never turn their backs on a son and 2 grandchildren. She started pressuring me to keep the card, and they would try to lower the budget so as not to make it so high. I stood by the decision. She didn't want to ask him to help with food, and sent the money to their account. They are begging me to release the card, but I don't feel comfortable paying for 3 more people. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mother is acting entitled, manipulative and toxic. You've been extremely kind, and all of them are taking advantage of you. If your mother and father had the bare minimum of respect for you, they should have called you to ask if it was okay. They didn't. That they are now trying to manipulate you into continuing is simply inexcusable. If I were you, I would turn off that card immediately, and then I would think about whether or not to send a fixed monthly amount. I was considering saying you should be less hardline about the children, but then I realized, why should you be the one supporting children who have 2 parents who should be capable of supporting them? Honestly, if your brother is living with them, it's his turn to support your parents. And if your brother is helping with bills, then the household expenses should be stable or reduced. But instead, they are at least doubled, which means they're lying to you about that too. Exactly. Brother is not out of work. Even though his living situation is temporarily resolved, childcare is now between him and his parents versus him and his spouse before. OP, they'll continue to gaslight you until you give in to give them money. Why would you want to support him and his children you've never met? They're being manipulative, so cut them off and see what happens then. The audacity of them. Isn't it great how people take everything for granted nowadays? You want to help your parents because they're struggling, and then they invite 3 more people to live off your money without even asking you, and when you dare to say something about it, you're the villain. And although I think it's great that even though they stole money from you, you still want to help them, do you realize that they will still maintain your brother and his kids? They will short themselves to feed your brother and his offspring. This is called digging your own grave. If they want to keep digging, let them. As long as they keep supporting their son and grandkids, that son will keep letting them. My husband's male 33 best friend, male 37 Will, is infertile. He got divorced 2 times because of it and because he lied and hid his infertility, and his life hasn't been the same since the day he was told he couldn't have kids. However, he's always had a soft spot for children, and when he found out that my husband and I were expecting, he was so thrilled and started buying us gifts and decor pieces he made from his woodwork for the baby. Of course, my husband thinks that those are all nice gestures, but I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable, especially with how much he keeps mentioning the baby. A few days ago, my husband and I found the gender of the baby. The moment we told Will, he started calling the baby a random name he picked and was going to give to his baby if he wasn't infertile. He then started begging us to use this name, and my husband said it was a done deal. I refused, but my husband called me heartless and asked me to make this one small nice gesture for his struggling friend, to give him closure and honour him after all the things he's done for us. I flipped and said it's my baby, not his. Will heard this and left immediately. My husband yelled at me, saying it was his baby too, and my behaviour towards Will was abhorrent. He left after him and didn't come back till the morning. He kept saying the same thing and pressuring me to agree on the name, but I refused. Am I the idiot for choosing this hill to die on? Not the idiot. Mom and Dad have the right to name the baby. Nobody else. Mom doesn't like a name. It doesn't get included in the list of potential names. Dad doesn't like a name. It doesn't get included in the list of potential names. Why is your husband picking a friend over his wife? That should be your concern here. Also, your husband is the idiot. His friend needs therapy, not to pick baby names for closure. Your husband is actually a bad friend for entertaining this. No, the husband is a good boyfriend to his friend. He even married a woman to give his boyfriend a baby. OP, this isn't closure. This would be the beginning of an unhealthy attachment to a child that isn't his. It sounds like he's already attached since he's trying to name the child. Will needs therapy at the very least to deal with his baby fever. It's not normal or okay for anyone to knowingly lie about their fertility issues to not one but two marriage partners while looking to build a family. Like some women, some men need a bit of assistance in that regard. He's infertile, not sterile. There's a huge difference. For goodness sake, I wouldn't divorce someone who couldn't physically have kids. There are countless options to build a family, but I would divorce a lying liar who lies. I'd honestly consider rethinking this marriage. It sounds like 3 people in this marriage by the way your husband is with Will. Joking, kind of, but holy crap, this is another level. Your husband prioritizing his friend over you, his wife, is so concerning. Not the idiot in the slightest bit. Also, make sure every nurse in the hospital when you give birth knows that the birth certificate doesn't get within 10 feet of your husband. I would also add an alert that the friend is not allowed to be alone with the baby, ever. I'm assuming your husband is in love with Will and they plan to run off together with your child. Please update. I, 20 female, have developed some fainting issues and weakness in my legs, making it difficult to get around without assistance. When it started happening years ago, I was able to use crutches to keep me upright, but then the fainting got worse, so I had to rely mostly on a wheelchair to maintain my independence and stay safe. All that being said, I can and do still use my legs. My family lives in a 2-story house, so I use my chair on the first floor, but on the second floor I usually stick to my crutches or walk on my own if I feel well enough. It's not too bad because the floor up here is carpeted anyway, so it's softer when I do fall, lol. My sister, nearly adult, invited her friend Sarah, 18 female, over recently. I know her, we went to the same high school and have mutual friends, but we're not close. Sarah came up the steps with my sister just as I walked out of the bathroom. I waved to them both, but Sarah gave me a weird look. A few days later, I was with some friends at this local Froyo place. Sarah was there too. I dropped my spoon by accident, so I asked if she would grab me another one because I didn't want to wheel my way across the store. She rolled her eyes and said I needed to stop faking for sympathy because she knew I was capable of getting it myself. Everyone looked at her like she'd lost it, but I just let it go and went to grab one. She stopped my chair with her foot and said I could walk to do it. She was getting on my nerves and my Froyo was melting, so I looked at her and said, I know it's hard to wrap your mind around, but sometimes disabled people can still use their legs for walking short distances. But unfortunately, I can't walk across this store without falling, so please stop being an idiot and move your foot. I finally got myself the spoon and Sarah was gone when I returned. One of our mutual friends said that Sarah just didn't know why I used a wheelchair, and I didn't have to be rude and embarrass her like that. A few other people agreed with them, but my best friend is on my side, and she thinks Sarah had it coming because of how she was acting to begin with. My sister is kind of mad at me for ruining her friendship though, because now Sarah won't talk to her. I just want to know if I was the idiot here. I'll definitely apologize if I was. Not the idiot. There was zero need for Sarah to do anything. If she didn't want to get you a spoon, fine. But she lost all credibility when she put her foot in your path. Sarah didn't need to embarrass herself by being a nosy busybody and nominate herself to be the wheelchair police. You're right, plenty of people can walk, but rolling around is much easier. I dated a girl with EDS, and she needed a wheelchair from time to time. Sarah messed around and found out, and her crappy friends are trying to cover for her. Don't back down. The default setting for decent people encountering someone disabled should be to believe them, not demand to know the ins and outs of their disabilities, make a judgment on it based on a teenager's understanding of medicine, etc. The real idiot here is that girl's parents. They did a bad job. This girl is a bully. It's not rude to stand up to an awful ableist bully that's harassing you. It's abusive to try to force people out of wheelchairs. A red flag is that most of your friends are okay with you being bullied. Nobody is entitled to know the intimate details of anyone's disability. My 19 female parents adopted an infant a month ago. I hate babies. He cries all night, and I had to give up my room because we only have 2 bedrooms, and I moved into the basement, which wasn't big enough, so I had to get rid of some of my stuff. One night I couldn't sleep anymore. He kept crying, so in the morning I tried to talk to my parents and tell them that I'm moving out, but they were busy and didn't even listen. I called my aunts and uncles to see if I could stay with them for a few days until I found a place, but they all said no and made different excuses, so I thought, screw them all. So I packed my stuff and went to my friend's home, but left my phone at my parents' home because I knew they'd be mad if I moved out. It took them 4 days to realize that I don't live there anymore. They say I'm an idiot because, according to them, when they realized me and my stuff were gone, they called me, and when I didn't answer, they called the whole family, and when they realized no one knew where I was, they panicked. I told them I'm not the idiot because I literally told everyone that I'm moving out. It's not my fault that no one listened. Everyone is mad at me now, and my parents told me I have to come back and apologize, and they're not talking to me until I do as they said. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your parents decided to displace you from your room for a new baby, ignored you, didn't notice you were gone for 4 days, and somehow you're the idiot in this situation? Really? Yeah, I don't think so. I hope you're looking for a more permanent living situation that isn't with your parents. You were having issues and they didn't care about it. You're a legal adult, you can move out whenever you want. You told them it's not your fault they don't listen. They're probably mad they lost their free live-in babysitter who lived in a basement. Wow, Mom and Dad's attention shifts for 1 month and you can't handle it. You ran away. I did the same thing when I was 5. You are the idiot, OP. Listen, I don't know what your entire situation is. You may or may not have thought of all these things. It's time to think of things beyond yourself. Yes, it sucks. All the attention is on the baby. Your parents are overwhelmed. Has it been 19 years since they had a baby? They love you. I'm pretty sure they will want to sit and talk it out. Go home. My sister, 21 female, came to stay with me recently because she had a job interview in my city. She was here for 2.5 days, and according to what she told my parents, I treated her abysmally. On day 1, I picked her up from the airport on my lunch break and dropped her off at my place. I was in a hurry to get back to work. My boss said I could take a long lunch because it was a one-off, but I didn't want to push it, and I told her I'd see her after work. When I got home, my sister said she was starving. There was food at the house, so I suggested we go get curry. On day 2, I made eggs and toast for breakfast. I had to go to work and said I would see her later and good luck with her interview. When I got home from work, she again claimed extreme hunger. I asked if she wanted to grab a bite and then go out since I didn't need to work the next day. She liked that idea, but she seemed in a funk after we ate and came back early. The next day she had a late flight, so I assumed she'd want to sleep in, and I also slept in. When I got up, she was in my living room with a mug of tea, looking annoyed. I asked if she wanted some breakfast, and she said, "Bit late for breakfast, don't you think?" It was around 11 a.m. I said I was making eggs, and she could have some if she wanted. She said it was almost lunchtime. I said there was sandwich stuff in the kitchen. At this point, my sister got angry and said I hadn't taken her out to eat or made her one nice meal the entire time, and it was so rude and inconsiderate. She asked how she was supposed to live on eggs and curry. I asked her why she didn't order stuff for lunch when I was at work or make something in the kitchen. She called me an idiot and left, saying she didn't need a ride to the airport. Apparently, After she left, she called my parents crying, and they paid for her Uber to the airport. My mom was frustrated with me and asked why I didn't take care of my sister. She said if money was an issue, she could have reimbursed me. I don't understand what's wrong with eggs for breakfast, first of all. Second, I don't know why my sister didn't just say what she wanted from the outset. Third, my mom said there is a certain way guests should be treated, and it's rude for a guest to ask, but also rude for a host not to provide. Is that true? Not the idiot. Sisters aren't guests, especially if you have to work. Sisters are, hey, glad you're here, help yourself to whatever you need, I'll see you later. Your sister is a brat, and your mom is enabling her. She isn't a guest, she's family, and she invited herself to stay at your apartment as a free place to stay for an interview. You took time off from work, made her breakfast, and went out to eat. If she's old enough to have an interview for a job, she's old enough to demonstrate a little independence rather than expecting to be catered to. If I'm staying with my sister and she's working, I cook her dinner, and some extra to put in her freezer for later, and I pay for the shopping. Sister needs to learn how to be a good guest, or she won't be welcome back. I'm betting that your sister is used to everyone, aka Mummy Dearest, pandering to her and entertaining her. Her expectations were completely out of whack with reality. You are not an all-inclusive resort, and that's on her, not you. She thought you would just drop everything and cater to her every whim. And she didn't even communicate that expectation to you. She is high maintenance. Does she really think she can get and hold a job if she cannot make herself a sandwich? You have been very accommodating. You picked her up, got her food, and offered to cook for her. What more does she want? As a guest in your place, staying with you because she needed to, she should have been the one offering to cook for you as a thank you. P.S. If she gets the job in your city, do not let her room with you.